sometimes when you're so comfortable in those spaces, um, you don't realize that they're not doing you justice,
Mm.
And when you're comfortable, it's like it hurts. It hurts. Like, you're hanging out with your boy who you've known for a minute, but you know that what you guys got going on, it don't it don't it don't make sense for what you're trying to be.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's the word, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today, man, we got a very special guest in the building. You're the first guest that we're doing that is like food oriented. You're the owner of Smash Jibarito. Man, you just recently got your brick and mortar, but before that, you were straight pop up for like a
Straight
minute,
papa.
bro. So, man,
Sir.
congratulations on that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
You're a self-labeled misfit. Man, introduce yourself, bro.
Thank you for that. I did not know I was the first food person, actually. That's pretty cool to know. Appreciate it. And it's an honor to be here. My name is Josean Irizarry, from Chicago. I am the owner of Smash Jibarito.
Man, I appreciate you coming through for real. Like I said, I've been seeing your stuff for a minute. I wanted to try the Smash Jibarito for a fat minute until I met you. We chopped it up at the restaurant, and yeah, man, it's all love. I appreciate everything that all the hospitality. So I'm glad to
Appreciate you, bro.
bring you to my space and everything.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me, bro.
We gotta first talk about you bringing a pop up concept to the largest music festivals in Chicago, right? You took this to Sueños, you took it to Lollapalooza, and you did Sueños in your second year.
First year. First year and like what, 2 months, 3 months?
How does one do this? That's a crazy accomplishment to be able to get.
After the vending applications went out, bro, like I just took a shot, man. I just took a shot, put in the application. They have a part in the application where it's like talk about your business and stuff like that. And I just remember writing that out, and I can't even remember what I said, but I just remember writing that out and just going all in on it. I'm like, man, pop-up business, burger, Latino owned, burgers. And they ended up giving me a call back. Ended up giving me a call back or an email back. And then after they sent the requirements, I mean, dude, the requirements weren't nothing. Dude, just literally have like insurance, workers' comp, insurance, and that's it. And proof of business. That was it. That was it. And now I'm over here thinking like we were gonna need like a freaking whole certificate situation, like, but nah, bro. It was really simple. So as long as you had those things and you could afford like renting the gas and stuff like that if you needed it, like it was all gravy. They provided a fridge, they provided like a bunch of stuff. So it wasn't like, we needed, well, it wasn't really a fridge. It was like a freight that was cold. So you like put all your product in there and stuff. I literally came out with like a little Blackstone and electric fryer.
Well, how many people did you have with you at the time?
At that festival, I hired a bunch of people. There was a bunch of homies, honestly, that just like, yo, you guys want to come to a free festival, And then ended up just calling a bunch of homies, and they came out, helped out. We were like breaking down the day to see like we would take breaks, and like the way we would do breaks is like, yo, what artists you guys want to go see? And I always chose first. I always chose first, like, yo, I'm gonna choose who I want to go see, and then you guys choose. So then that's how we would like break down who went on break at what time.
So who was it you saw that year?
Man, Sueños that first year, man, I want to say Mike Towers was performing and El Alfa.
Hold on. So the headliners, who saw the headliners? You didn't see the headliners, or you guys were done with food at that point?
That first year, it was like a wing, like winging it. We were just winging it. When we did Sueños, so that was Sueños' second year. So then when we did the third year and when we did Lala, I had already like kind of discussed like, you know what, bro, like we're gonna close up on the last performance, and we're just all gonna go see them like as a crew. So that first year we sold out. We didn't really sell a lot of food because I brought way too much and we were not really known at that first Sueños. But that same year we did Lala, And Lala, I was a little bit more prepared, brought a little less food, but we were, it was enough to sustain the weekend or the 4 days. So that day we went to go see all the closers. We saw K Dot, we saw Karol G.
Kendrick did Lala?
Yeah, bro, and it was funny because at the time uh my boy he like snuck in a bottle of like what was it, Jack Daniel, and like he snuck in a bottle, and like after the show, like we took the whole fifth and we were just like having a good time at the performance and stuff. And we were at a festival, so like for you to have a bottle at a festival, it was like
You're
you know
lit. No, you're lit.
everybody was looking at us like, how'd you guys get a bottle?
My dad ran into some people back in the day where they would bury the bottle before the festival and remember where they
That's
buried
so
it and
cool.
go dig it up
That's
the
so
week of the
cool.
festival.
That's hilarious.
And I think it was like I was like 15 at the time, so like
That's
I didn't
hilarious.
drink back then,
That'd be cool. Just have like a little map to see where the bottle was at.
man. But imagine like they changed the layout that specific year, and your bottle just like gets fucking built over.
They haven't found it.
That would be the worst.
That's hilarious, man. I remember that Lala field, man. If it rained, or I can't remember if it rained. I think it did rain for JID. I think it was like muddy, bro, at Lala. And I remember that was like slushy mud.
Man, so we spoke about how this opportunity was earned really early on during the Smash Jibarito days, right? When your business is at such a young age, earning certain opportunities, even though you think, damn, this is the best thing in the world, sometimes you're just not ready for that. Like, there's interviews I've done where I look back and I'm like, fuck, like maybe if I did this a year later, would have done better. I would have known what questions to ask and what moments would have done better on social media, right? What were some things you were forced to learn during these early days of those festivals?
We did Sueños, very first Sueños. As soon as the festival started, man, we were like 2-3 hours without sales, man. So like I'm just like pacing the tent because I got all this product, all these people, and I'm just pacing, and I'm just like, nobody knows who I am, like nobody knows who we are. And like I remember just that was the first and like really big feedback that I gave myself. Like the moment I get out of this festival, like it's on. Like people are gonna know who we are. And that was like that was the first big question that I had from that. And it was just getting people to know me, kind of tapping into like the community, influencers at the time. At the time, I think I only had one influencer exposure, which literally happened like the week before. It was actually two. Shout out to Potato. Um, them both came to see me at Blind Barber, and those were the first two influencers that I ever like tapped into. And I can't remember her name, Chrissy. She was an influencer. I don't know if she's still doing it, but they both came out, and it was literally a week before the festival. So when I left that festival, it was like, yeah, I got to get some recognition because I knew I had good product. I mean, we had good feedback the second day. The first day, people started to kind of like see like what was good, and like, oh yeah, there's a Jibarito burger here, and then the excitement came the Sunday, the following day, and people started to talk a little bit, but it wasn't like real big impact. We got a line and stuff because it was like busy.
They found something and said, let me go try this real quick.
I think we had little flags on the burgers then, little Puerto Rican flags. And people were just like wondering like where we were at, what we were doing. There was people coming around like, oh, I was looking for this all day, yada yada. But that was like one of the first things like I wish I would have done early on.
So something you said there though was that you really took that to heart and you told yourself like nobody knows me.
Yeah.
Why did that hit so hard for you?
I'm a very big like I like to reflect so much in the creative process, or at least then the creative process of like learning my concept and understanding how to sell the concept. I knew I had a good product, I knew it tasted good, but I started to realize in that moment that it was not enough. So it was important for me to like tell the story from a different point of view versus just tasting it. you know? Because that's how, I mean, that for me, that's how you see food, right? Like you gotta eat it, you know? So how do you get people to want to eat it?
What was that?
I don't think I had enough exposure. We were doing pop-ups and stuff and we were moving like aggressively, but I didn't have like a lot of people wanting to come and try it. Like we were still just an idea, you know? And that moment I realized that like, yo, I gotta get people to try the idea.
And you create experiences, right? Because it's similar to music. With music, the first time you hear a song, you remember the moment you were in. You remember that person you were with, whether it's some sad shit or some happy shit, right? Like when I think back to concerts, I'm like, I know who I was with, what I felt in that moment.
How old were you, what you were doing in your life, etc.
How do you think that you do this with food?
Now it's difficult for me to see those moments. It's difficult for me to see those moments because like I'm not around it as I once was, right? Like before, man, you came to a pop-up, I was there cooking your burger, having a conversation with you the entire time. Like my point of view ain't like that no more. Um, but then, man, bro, that was the thing. Like we'd be slow, and I was just like, excited for having something to for people to try. Someone will come up and say, "Well, hey, what are you selling, or how do you what are you making?" I'm making a burger, but it's a Jibarito smash burger. What's a Jibarito? If they don't know what it is, and then you have that moment of like kind of showing them the culture and getting them to understand what it is. And then they're like a little confused about it at first, but then they try it. And then they're just like, whoa, like this is different. Or they did have a jibarito before and they don't understand that my jibarito has yellow plantain. It's not green.
A jibarita?
A jibarita. It's like sweet with the saltiness. And that takes them back a little bit because they're just like, bro, this tastes different. Or they'll be like, where's the garlic? Like, you don't need garlic for mine at least. I really appreciated those moments, those first experiences. Some of my friends now became homies because they came and tried my food and they just kept coming. And now we're just like cool. Like we went out, hung out.
That's how it happens, bro. Like I was saying, it's best when things happen naturally. When people come up to you and they just expect this thing,
Yeah.
they expect some sort of, I don't know if entitlement or obligation, either or, right? It's an entitlement. They feel that they're obligated to some sort of response from you. And it's really like, man, if you really just came up to me on some chill shit, like build that relationship and we're going to get to where you want to be, right?
Right.
That's what I said about, this. Like, I'm glad that it happened so naturally. Like, literally, we were at David's pop up, or not David's grand opening.
Grand opening. Shout out to Matcha.
Shout out to Dope Drip Cafe, right?
Yeah.
And you just came up, you're like, you're sad boy, right? I'm like, yeah, you're like, come through to the spot. And that's all it was, right? And we chopped it up for an hour and I'm like, man, let's make this shit happen, bro. You know what I'm saying? What's that moment look like for you though, when you think back to that first Smash Jibarito?
I would say it's not all one moment, but one of my favorite moments is like how we came about to making the burger. Cause my boy Ralph, he was my friend who I was building the concept at the time, and he was around me a lot. He was helping me out with the business, and I had asked him like, "Yo, bro, bring me some plantain because I want to shoot some shots." And this was like after like our first, this was like after the first pop I ever did, and I remember like him coming through and he brought bananas. And I was like, bro, these are bananas because they were green bananas.
I didn't even know there was a difference. I'm not gonna lie. I thought banana was just plátano in
No,
Spanish.
no, plantain and bananas, bro. Bananas are what we eat. I see like fruit. Plantain are fruit too, technically, but a plantain is more starchy, so it's like a potato. So he had brought bananas and they were green. They were underripe. So he brought bananas and I'm like, bro, these are bananas. Like they're not plantain. And he's like, no, they're plantain. I'm like, no, cuz they're bananas. They're green bananas at that. So he brought them and stuff, and I'm just like, you know what, F it. We're taking pictures, you know? So we did the whole thing, same process, everything that came out a little darker because there's sugar in it. So that caramelizes when you cook it. And we did the whole thing, whatever. And then we were so excited about the brand still, about the concept. that we were just like, all right, we're gonna try it. We're gonna try it. So after we took shots, we just like bit into them, and we just looked at each other, and we were just like, whoa, like that's cool.
Why do you think it made it so different?
We had already done one pop up, and when I was dropping off the plates of food, when I was dropping off the plates, because we ended up having our first pop up, we sold tickets, had a full house. 2 hours after, like my mentor closed his restaurant, he let me use his dining room. So it was like 10 o'clock. We did a 2 hour just come through, eat. You buy a ticket and you get a plate of food with two burgers, chips, an empanada, and a drink, a beverage. And so I remember just dropping off the food off at the tables, and I was just like, man, that looks a little dry, because we were using the green bananas, the green totones, and it's like, man, it's just a little dry. That was like some of the feedback that I was getting from the peeps. So like when we had that mistake with the bananas, it made the burger like less dry for some reason. And like next day, bro, I went, got some ripe plantain, freaking did the burger I see like with the ripe, and it was just different. Like you get that sweetness from the yellow plantain, and then you get the saltiness from the burger, and it just meshed so well.
You know, I asked you for a specific moment, but what I really want to know is where were you in life at the time that you think about these Smash Jibaritos?
When we first started, it was like in a post-COVID world. It was like 2021. When was it? 2021, 2022. 2022, like life was different, bro. Life was different. I was working sales. I was working at a sales corporate job. And then I ended up leaving. I ended up leaving because I was just like not messing with it. And then my barber, he was like, who's my uncle John John. He's actually he helped me out with the restaurant.
That's not the fool I met
Uh
the other day, right?
yeah, it was.
Oh, it was?
With the curly hair. Yeah, that's my uncle, man. He put it in my head, man. He was like, bro, you gotta go back to doing food, bro. Because I could just hear your passion. He's like, I don't know what you gotta do, bro, but you gotta go back to that. So I was like, okay. My mentor, he ended up hitting me up and was like, yo, bro, slide through. I got something working. Like, I think you'd be good for it. Ooh, slide through. But at that point in my life, bro, like I was just so like confused, bro, because COVID really messed me up, like in my career and whatnot. I was running a restaurant, and for my mentor, and COVID happened and it just knocked me out. Kind of ended up having to close the location, move to a different location, and then that location I was not messing with, and I ended up like just dipping out of like some crazy experience that I had, which was like BS, you know. So that took me out of the industry. Took me out of the industry for a little bit. Ended up getting into retail sales, then like over the phone sales, and I was just there for a little bit. That second job was cool, and I was liking it. I was making money, but it wasn't really me, you know. So fast forward, back in my mentor's shop, the original business that we were doing, it ended up falling through. So he felt bad and he was like, yo, bro, like use the kitchen for whatever. So that's when I came up with the concept. But man, bro, I was so lost, bro. I was so confused, so lost. Life wasn't together yet. Like, I had like experience and stuff like that. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Rather, I was gonna go back into my career, invest into my career. Restaurant jobs at that time were like horrendous. Cause it's like, bro, COVID just happened. They're not allowing everybody back in. What do you do? I spent almost a decade, well, now a decade in food, like all my experiences there. How do I, go back into a career and be productive?
So why continue to chase something that's pretty much showed you like this isn't gonna work out for you?
Right before that, I started selling coquito, and I started selling coquito because I was broke. And one of my guys, he was like, "Yo, bro, you gotta let's sell coquito." And I was like, "Bro, how am I gonna sell coquito? Like Christmas is in 5 days, 6 days." My guy Raul, man, shout out to him. And my boy, man, he was a mentor of mine. And one thing about his vision, bro, is that he knew how to paint vision, bro. And we were sitting down and we were like in a group thing, and he's like, bro, you should sell coquito. And I'm just like, bro, how the heck am I gonna and like my boy, he paints such a good vision, bro. Like he went up to one of my homies, Esme, and I don't like he told him like, yo, do something for me. He comes back with this like picture, and it's just a bottle. It's like a picture of a bottle with the name Raushan on it. And it was basically like our names together. And he's like, look, bro, this is gonna be the brand of coquito that we're gonna sell. And we're gonna sell it for Christmas. And I'm just like, bro, you're nuts. You're nuts. You're nuts. Like there's no way in heck I'm gonna freaking do this. And long story short, I ended up doing it. Freaking, it was like a day before Christmas, and we went to like this gathering, like this event. And he's like, "Look, we're gonna make a bunch of coquito on my crib, and we're gonna bring it to the spot, and we're gonna sell it, bro." And I was like, "Bro, you're crazy!" Like screw it, whatever. Drop like whatever little money into making coquito, and I ended up going to his crib, and I was there with his wife and his kids, like all chilling in the kitchen, having a good time and stuff. We're chopping it up, making coquito. And we go to this event, bro, and I display all the bottles. And there was like 30, 40 people there.
Oh, I had the labels and shit.
Yeah, bro. And then the my homie who drew that picture did every single label, wrote Raushan on every single label by hand. And we stamped those on the bottles, man. I'll show you the picture afterwards. And bro, like we cracked a couple bottles, and like people were trying it. They were like, bro, this is fire. So long story short, I ended up selling almost every single bottle there. And he was just like, you see, bro, you see, like when you do this, you like, you get this. That just like embedded in me, bro. It's like, bro, you really gotta like create in order for you to see things through, bro. And that to the day sticks with me, man. Like that was like the first time where I was just like, man, like if I do my own thing, like I think I could be successful. So when Smash came about, I had the same mindset, bro. The same mindset. We figured out what we wanted to make for that pop-up because I got the opportunity to use my mentor's restaurant before I knew what I was gonna make. So he was just like, use it, see what you want to do. I was like brainstorming a bunch of crap. And I ended up going with the Jibarito. And all the feedback I was getting from the people working at the restaurant, they were like, yeah, this is fire. Woo. We just did it, bro. We just did it. We freaking put it together, put some chips. The chips were a little crazy at the time. I was doing sweet potato jam. Craziness, bro.
Man, I want to take it back just a tiny bit, right? Well, not back, but take it back to our earlier conversation. You mentioned at that very specific moment,
hmm
nobody knew you. How did this moment help you pinpoint the identity that you would have for Smash Jibarito and Josean moving forward?
That moment actually was not that moment, but that moment came like 2 weeks later, bro. So first Sueños, had leftover meat, and then like Puerto Rican Fest was like 2 weeks later. So the Puerto Rican Fest hit me up, and they were like, "Yo, we'd love to have you to at the festival. Like we saw you at Sueños, we had you at Sueños, we thought it was great. Like I think this would be perfect here." I was like, "Yeah, send me whatever you need to send me, like." Because I'm already like riding the high of the festival, and I'm just like, yeah, send me all the paperwork. I'll sign it, go through it, and whatnot. And so we ended up being 2 weeks later. We ended up, just making it happen. That first day, man, we were getting so much hate, so much hate. Why would you do that? That's a classic thing. Like, why you this gentrification, yada yada. I'm just like, dang, no one, the Ibaros don't like us. So boom. Long story short, Sophia, who does my marketing now. Shout out to Fifi. I was like hitting her like, yo, come try my burger because she's vegetarian and I had a vegetarian option. So I was like, yo, come try my burger. She's like, yeah, I got you. So finally, she made it out, and she made it out to the Puerto Rican Fest that Thursday. She's like, dude, I literally came just for you. I was like, dude, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And she's like, I'm gonna do a video. Is that cool? I was like, yeah. So she does a video, whatever. She loved it. Um, she goes viral. She goes viral overnight, and that was the first time I experienced that. And she goes viral, and then the next day, like the effect of that just started to happen, and I was just like, okay, cool. Like this is how this works. Like this is how social media works. This is how the word gets out, so to speak. And that experience, like that experience re-identified the entire experience I had at the festival because it was 4 days, but those days felt so long because of that first day. After she put that video out, people were coming to me that Friday and they were like, "Yo, we saw you on TikTok. You're on my list to come try. Woo woo. Like we're excited to try you." Then a bunch of influencers started to come through on their own. Like I didn't even know who they were, but I knew they were influencers because people were letting me know, like, "Yo, he does food. He does this. He does that on TikTok." And people started to like come and that Friday, a couple people dropped videos and those started popping off. So by Saturday, everybody was already like lining up for us and like
Lit.
it was wild, bro. It was wild because like I had to like we were in Humble Park. The my kitchen, I was working out of my mentor's restaurant, and the kitchen was like 20 minutes away. So we were like driving back and forth, getting more product, doing boxes of plantain, like while we were running out at the festival, like just that whole thing of like just making it happen, bro. So funny enough, all the people that were like kind of like judging me the first day, Thursday, were like coming to me Sunday, inviting me to the baptism, like, "Yo, we need you at the barbecue this year, this summer. Like, come out. I got this birthday. Do you do catering? Where's your shop at? This, and that." And I was just like, whoa. So that was like what I was like, okay, I don't know what I had. I don't know what I had, but I knew that the product, I knew that the concept spoke in not only in like the flavor, but it spoke within our community. It identified me as a hustler, as someone who's like gonna go and get it. Because people saw the track record or started to notice the track record. I was going here, I was going over there, even though I was like hauling all my stuff everywhere, but I was everywhere, or at least trying to. Showing up at this bar, at this brewery, at this event, collabing with homies, all the stuff.
How much of that opinion of the Puerto Rican people did matter to you at that time, though?
You know what, bro? Me and opinions, bro, dog. We're like oil and water, cuh. For real. Like, um, my mom, she even to the day, like she says, she calls me sinvergüenza, no shame. So it's like really difficult for me to take someone's opinion and take it personally. Obviously like there's people in my life who like matter to me, and their opinions, like I take a little bit more personal, like my inner circle, business partners, etc., family, my mom, my lady, you know, their opinions matter a little bit more.
If your mom don't like you can't put it up.
Well, my mom should be having some crazy opinions
Should
too,
she be
but
a hater?
no, 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 no. She's not a hater. She's a mom. She's a mom. But, not all my ideas have been great in my life, So I kind of painted that track record for her. So when I come with, "Hey mom, I'm starting a business," it's like, "Oh boy." But people and their opinions, bro, like they can have them, bro. I don't really take too much from it. It's funny because like there'll be moments like where we go viral on a video and like we'll get a couple hater comments and like some of my guys or some of my team, they'll be like, "Man, can you believe this person said this?" And I just laugh, bro. And I was like, "Yeah, that was funny, right? Like he said this or she said that." And I just laugh about it.
Man, so these are all highlights of things that you've accomplished, right? These are things that you've really put in the effort to earn. So, man, my applaud to you, my flowers to you for real.
Thank you, bro.
But for us to truly understand the full picture, we have to rewind a little bit, right? Some of my favorite artists, the best music that they make is reflecting on days when they didn't have the notoriety. They didn't have all the eyes on them, right? You got that now, but there was once a time where you didn't. In the song Autumn Dry by Bryson Tiller, he says, "Cause I miss the basics, rolling up two swishers in my A6, kick it, watch a flick in my basement, in my mama's basement." Right? These are the days that really shape the first version of who you're gonna be because we evolve over time, we change, and you've done a lot of growing since your Sabatino days, right? What was it that initially drew you to the art of food?
Man, it actually happened after Sabs. I was in Sabs and I was a kid, man. I was freaking 20 years old trying to be a rapper. But we had an interesting um experience with that. So after Sabatino's, I ended up going to work for this restaurant called Gina Giorgetti's. They had a steakhouse. They have a very infamous steakhouse in downtown Chicago. hmm But they opened up a second location at the time over in Rosemont. So my boy, he had a job over there, and he was like, "Yo, bro, come over here. They just opened. They're looking for guys." And him and I both came from Sabs. He came from Sabs. So that culture at Sabatino's was old school. Sabatino's, you were a busboy and a waiter. You didn't have food runner. You didn't have POS systems to jot down your order. You had to write everything out and yell it to the chefs. So for the chefs to remember that and give you the plates that they needed, the way they needed it, gluten free, allergy, no this, no that, cooked temperatures, whatever. Like it was tough. So we came from that culture. So to go into Gina Giorgetti's where everything was like you had a Lamborghini for a system, everything brand new, communication from A, B, C, D, E, when we just had A and J, um, it was like, bro, this is what you guys are used to? Like, bet, you know? So I was really good in that space, so to speak. And the first gentleman that I started to look towards as like mentorship in food, he told me, he was like, "Man, you're pretty good at hospitality, bro. Like, I don't know what you're doing in college, but you might want to consider sticking to hospitality." And bro, I was in college all 2 minutes, and I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer. As soon as I found out how much science it needed, I was like, deuces, not gonna happen. So he was the one. He was the first person to tell me like, "Yo, hospitality is your thing. Like, you're pretty good at it." I was like, "Freaking a busboy hustling tables, doing better job than servers." They remembered my name, tipped me at the end, like took care of me, whatever. So when he put that in my head, I was like, "Man, I definitely wanna pursue this." And I did. I was a busboy turned server turned bar back turned event bartender. I didn't get to bartend like that, like I wanted to. And then that same person told me like, "Yo, if you want to learn the business, you got to get in the kitchen." So I ended up getting fired from that job. Yeah, like it was a growing pain of mine. I ended up getting a little arrogant at my job, and it kind of backfired on me.
In what way?
I was a kid, bro. I was 22 years old. Like I was like making money. I was for being 22 and bringing in, almost 1,000 a week, freaking pouring water. Like, I thought it was hot stuff, you know what I'm saying? And then like my swagger at the job, like I was walking like that, moving like that, took things for granted. I was cool with some of the ownership, like, it all went to my head. Um that very owner ended up toasting me. And he was like, "You know what, bro? Like, you don't need to be here." Ended up taking an L. I ended up dropping the ball. I ended up dropping the ball. Woke up way too late that day, and I was walking in really late for weeks, just forgetting to wake up or not hearing my alarm. Just out late, doing stupid crap, and
Being at the
freaking
mine?
yeah, and then freaking being a delinquent and freaking showing up late to work. Like, so that particular day, it was like the last straw for him, and he toasted me. But right before that, he had given me that feedback of going to going in the kitchen, so to speak, and I did that. I left the front house and I went to the back of house, and that's when I came across my mentor, my actual mentor. And I stayed with him for all of my cooking career.
So what was it you learned in that restaurant that you wouldn't have learned anywhere else?
That whole Sabatino's era, um, they actually really distilled my work ethic because Sabatino's was go. That was it. Like there was no chilling, there was no like waiting around. Like if you were standing, like Enzo and Angelo will come right behind you and like, hey, come on, what are you doing? Like, come here, clean this. Why are you standing there?
I would have well, I would have been out.
You wanted to, bro, but like they had such a respect for them. It was crazy, bro. Because Enzo and Angelo, like there was these two like Italian dudes, old Italian dudes, but bro, these guys they spoke fluent Spanish. So their entire kitchen, all Mexican, Ecuadorian, and bro, communicating with them all in Spanish. So all them, they freaking rode for them. You know, you couldn't help but feel you couldn't help but feel respect for them. Because they were there too. They were there like clockwork. One would work one day or for a week. Then you would get the other brother who would come in and work that week. They never traveled together because when one traveled, one stayed. And they ran their operation like that. They were in the kitchen, they were busting tables, cooking tableside. So, they were an example, so even if you felt that kind of rebellious nature of not wanting to like, who do you think you are? Like, don't talk to me like that. It's like, nah, bro, there's purpose in what they're trying to teach me.
What was that purpose?
It's kind of like the, wax on, wax off kind of method. You do something to do it, to finish it, to do it in excellence, things like that. A very moral driven concept through physical action. And that physical action was attending tables, attending the customer, making sure that hospitality service was top tier.
So previously you've said that during this time you were in an interesting place.
I was a kid and I had dropped out of high school. I had dropped out of college. Like there was no real like path for me, bro. So, finding myself in that, like it was really like I questioned myself a lot. Like, what am I gonna do? How do I find success from being a busboy or a server, you know?
But that's where we all find ourselves after school, right? For me, I tell people all the time my life was mapped out from preschool to my last year of college. And as soon as I finished that last year of college, like I had no clue what was gonna happen, right? I just graduated one day. They said, "Here's your degree," and it's like, okay, now what, right? And luckily, at the time, I had started this, so I was already en route to what I wanted to do, right? But then I fell into education and ended up teaching, and it was just kind of like, but I never wanted to do that. I just woke up one day and they said, "Here's a job, go do this, and you're serviceable, so we'll keep you around." And there hasn't been any growth there, right? So then it makes you, I'm 25 now. And when I turned 25, I was scared of 24. 24 scared the shit out of me because when I was turning 24, everything that I had going on personally in my personal life blew up. That shit all fell apart. And I was like, man, 24 was shit. Ain't no way 25 could be worse. And then 25 came around like, damn, it's been a fucking year. But I say that all to say, right, when we leave school and we move into new ventures in our life, we're all confused on where we're going to be, right? We all think that this is what our life's supposed to look like by this point, and if it's not that, we failed. But in reality, like everyone goes through their own paths, but we're also like, man, I genuinely believe like God already has that plan set. God has that plan set of what my life's gonna end up looking like. How I get there, there's multiple ways I could get there. But eventually the end goal is all gonna be the same, right? It's just, did I make the right decision at this time or the wrong decision? And the wrong decision is gonna be a little bit longer than if I made that other one. But yeah. Do you feel like that's where your label of misfit had come from?
You know what, man? Like growing up, man, like I was just such a black sheep. Like I was just such a black sheep. Um, my father wasn't in my life. Mom was single parent. My grandfather was my male role model. My grandfather was very old. Um, he lived with me and my mom and my bro from like from the time I was like 10 to the time I was like 20 when he passed. So he couldn't really walk or move like that. So he wasn't like outside with me, so to speak. But in that time period, bro, it was really difficult for me to have like the constant feedback I would get from family and like elders and stuff like that was like, oh, portate bien, like, go and do something, go and get a good job, stop busting tables, stop this, stop that. Why are you gonna do this? Why are you gonna do that? Like I always got those kind of conversations. So to be a misfit was just easy to just identify as, you know? And I don't see that now like that, you know? That's a little joke that I be trying to, say to kind of keep me humble. But it's definitely, when you grow up like that, when you grow up like that, um there's a there's a there's a survival instinct that kicks always, you know? And it's really tough. It's something I actually had to grow through. And like re-identify myself in that sense because, to be at this level now, it's like, you can't really have that lack of confidence, because now there's people following. And to show up like that, it just doesn't serve what you're trying to cultivate, you know? Um Back then when there was no proof, so to speak, um, it was really easy to hide behind that and just kind of be like, yeah, you're right.
Do you feel like it was a mask for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was easy for me to drop the ball and just like walk away and not have that level of accountability, But now the level of responsibility, that bar is way too high. And I can't, even if I tried to hide, I can't. Because not only would like things fall, but the level of accountability that I get now, they won't allow me.
So it's not even a fear of failure for yourself, but a fear of failure for the people around you.
At this point, like I it's more for them, you know. They're part of my why.
Who's them?
My support system, family, like my mom, my bro, my core team, and then my overall organization, um, my lady, all of those people, um, business partners, etc. They play a major role in my life.
When you're so young, for me being 25, or even when more so when I was 21, 22, I really did not care. I was like, my my life is my life and whatever happens here happens here. And then eventually you get older and you're like, maybe I should take this a little bit more serious, right?
Interestingly enough, when I was 26, I took a personal development course with my best friend. One of my best friends, him and his wife put me through this self-development course. We were in this we were in network marketing, and the company had this like personal development thing where we would go out for like 7 days and like work on ourselves. And I remember that um there was like a specific little what's it called? It wasn't little. It was an exercise. Um and that exercise like really showed me the impact I made among that group of individuals. because the course was among like a pool of people. There was like 50 of us, I think. And that particular exercise really like, whoa, people really do look at me some way.
What was the exercise?
It was just to kind of see how people perceived you, and you didn't know why they were going to look at you in that certain perspective, and they would give us a little stick to basically acknowledge that they were acknowledging you. So in like a freaking group of a lot of people, I was the most acknowledged, and I just could not. My brain could not. I could not believe it. Like it just, I'm holding the sticks and I'm seeing like the the production of that, so to speak, um, or like the result of that, and it just, I was like, no, I can't. Like my mask, I'm trying to put my mask on, and hide, but it was just not. You couldn't, and they display you to kind of get that level of acknowledgement, and it really showed me. It really showed me. And it changed my entire mindset.
But why was it you felt the need to hide so much?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like that's probably something I gotta unpack in therapy.
This is therapy. This is hood therapy, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, for me, like it was just that like black sheep kind of like acceptance when it's like in reality, like I'm not, you know. I think I have more to give, and I think it's an obligation or it's a responsibility of mine to show that for people to not only eat from, but be influenced by.
I might be totally off base here, right? So, this is why we have the sensitive information acknowledgement in there. So people don't swing on me and shit.
No, it's all love. Go ahead.
At a young age, you were sort of forced to be the man of the house, right? And with that comes acknowledgement. With that comes now that all eyes are on you, right? With you not having that male role model of your dad, right? You had your grandpa, but again, he wasn't necessarily the model of a man of the house, right? Because you guys were still taking care of him in that sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you might have felt the need to hide because now I assume you're the oldest?
Hmm.
Now this pressure is thrown on you because you're going in to be the man of the house essentially, right? You're being
Yeah.
raised because now you're the oldest, and I don't know. Do you feel like that you kind of wanted to hide from that pressure, that responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely was part that for sure. Also, it was, we went through a lot. Right before my grandfather moved in with us, like my mother had just beat a case where me and my brother were taken away. We were in the foster system for a little bit. Um, and my mom, she like fought for us to come back, and nothing. It wasn't nothing crazy. My brother. There was a there was just a really bad accident that happened between my stepfather and my little brother. But you know, we got put into the system very young. I was 9. My brother was less than 6 months, I think. And those 2 years were interesting. You know, I remember them like it was yesterday almost. And the kind of life that we were living in that was tough. You know, my ma, I didn't, I couldn't really feel her love, so to speak. And she when we got when she got us back, her mindset was different. Like it wasn't like how it was before we left, and she got more guarded. She played more safe. Um, her She really was got very overprotective a little bit, and me being such a free spirit, even as a kid, I rebelled. I rebelled, and when you sit in that for a minute, or at least that's what I'm assuming how it was when I was a kid, because now I don't remember that like that, but when you sit in that rebellion for a little bit, like it's really easy to just stick to that. So it's like again going back to like the black sheep kind of like mindset, like you kind of just stick to that, and it's really easy to like project from that and just, oh yeah, I know I'm a mess up. I know I'm not good enough. I know this, I know that. So I think that earlier um phase of that of my life really built the foundation of that thought process.
I mean, it becomes who you are, and it's easy to disregard everybody else's expectations after that.
Shout out my mama, yo. I love my mom. She's my best friend.
Shout out moms for real.
My mom, she was young too. My mom had me when she was 24. It's not as young as most parents, as some parents, but she was still young, man, and she was still trying to get her life together, and to be not even 34 and go through that kind of like trauma, getting your kids taken away. Like I used to see my mom for 1 hour on Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 8. We living in Elgin. My mom was in Hermosa, Logan Square. To drive all the way up there is like an hour 30, easy. So you drive up there hour 30, you see your kids for 1 hour, and then you have to go because the government's telling you, you know? Like, I can't imagine that.
It's our parents' first time living life too. And with that being said, right, think about how what people told you affected the way you thought about yourself. You have a whole governing agency telling you you're not fit to be a parent. So now she has to prove to herself as well as to the government that I'm fit to be a parent. So by the time she gets you guys back, right, of course she's gonna play it safe.
She's tired, she's exhausted. Yeah, that's interesting perspective. That's a great realization. We doing therapy right
hood
here. Yeah,
therapy,
hell yeah.
bro. So now being removed from that, being so far past that, you've shed this mask. You don't really identify with this misfit label so much anymore. Are you still kind of scared to be that provider, right? Or I don't even want to use this label, right, or this phrase, but like, do you still sort of have that fear of being the man of the house?
I wouldn't say fear. I wouldn't say fear. I'm shameless, right? Sinvergüenza. So whatever I have to go for it, whatever I need to do to go for it, I'm gonna go for it. But I think it's more of a fear of failure than it is like the responsibility. I think I could deal with the responsibility. It's just failing.
You mentioned to me, am I enough? Am I good enough to do what I said I'm going to do? Is that where that comes from?
For sure, it there's like some sprinkles of that for sure in that. Um, yeah, man. I mean, at this point, like the bar is raised so high that it's like, bro, if it comes off, like it's falling, bro.
But building this comes with a lot of sacrifice, right? A lot of the times people don't see what you give up. When it came to this, there's been times where I've neglected my health, I've neglected my relationships, I've neglected my friendships. And to me at the time, it was all worth it. I would do it again. What's been the hardest thing you've had to let go of in your pursuit of this dream?
You know what, man? A lot of my relationships because of this, I had to let go. Friends, you know, exes, um, not because it was like some crazy horrible thing, but it's just, you see yourself going in a direction and you start to see what serves and what doesn't serve you, you know? Sometimes when you're so comfortable in those spaces, you don't realize that they're not doing you justice, And when you're comfortable, it's like it hurts. It hurts. Like, you're hanging out with your boy who you've known for a minute, but you know that what you guys got going on, it don't it don't it don't make sense for what you're trying to be. So letting go of the relationship just because like You can't be out here drinking or like doing drugs or something. Like, not that that was my experience, but you got to let that go. You got to let that go, because it's tough, bro. It's really tough, bro. And then especially coming from like a survival kind of like place, like it's really easy to just fall in that and just be there, like and just be there. It's cost me business. It's cost me work. It's cost me development. Um, it's all part of the process, right? Like you have to go through those things to be able to acknowledge where you're going or what you're gonna become.
And it gets to a point where it's like every decision you make impacts where you're going.
Every single one, bro.
So when I think about, am I gonna edit? Am I gonna schedule this interview? Am I gonna go shoot this concert? Oh, but this girl wants to link. Oh, but the homies want to go take some shots.
Yeah, bro.
I'm not 21, 22 no more. So me going to do that instead of coming to do work, it's a disservice to me. It's a disservice to everybody that's around me because there's people that believe in what I'm doing. I believe in what I'm doing. And when I'm not taking initiative to make something happen, I'm taking initiative to go link with that girl just because she said, pull up on me in 10. It's like,
And you know what, man? Shout out to you, bro, because to be 25 and having that mindset cut, like, dude, that's props to you, bro. Because at 25, I wish I had that kind of mindset. Nevertheless, had a homie around me talking to me like that, or had given me that acknowledgement or perspective.
oh, trust me, I
You
fold
know,
all the time, bro.
no, I mean, I'm sure, but bro, like to recognize it,
Yeah.
grown men don't recognize that. You know, people old. I'm 31. People older than me don't recognize that. You know what I'm saying? And for you to recognize that for yourself, like that's real. That's real. That's something you're gonna take with you forever. I think Kobe Bryant said it best too, bro. Like, he was talking about like performing and showing up at the game and not and him hating missing a game because there's people who would come from all over the world to see him play, you know? And if he missed that game that one day and that one person bought that ticket, he doesn't know if he could have afforded that ticket or not afforded that ticket. But he went on that specific game to watch Kobe. So for him to not show up, it was out of the question for him. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of like relative to like what we're talking about right now. Like, you have to show up a certain way because we don't know who's looking at us or what's about to happen. Where it's like if we're not making sure that we're showing up for those pick and choose moments and we're not choosing ourselves in that sense, um, what's missing out? Who doesn't get to experience us for us not editing that video or doing that pop-up or showing up to that show or putting your video out on time or showing up to work, showing up to prep when the guys are going to go to a stereo.
I think all of it is a test from God at the end of the day.
100%.
Going back to that relationship that I was telling you about earlier, it wasn't long. It was probably like 2 months. But there were certain things in there where Live Nation hits me to shoot the show, but I got to go talk to this girl's mom real quick about something. And that was really the test from God. It was like, do you want this and do you want it as bad as you say you do? Or are you trying to build this relationship that he knew he was going to take away? And the choice is always go chase that dream because relationships are going to fail. Your dream fails you only if you fail your dream.
And I think also too, like, if, you know, if relationships like that serve you really, like they'd understand. Whether it be like a homie, girlfriend, whatever, like family, like if they're really there for you and support of you and what you got going on, they would understand. Like everybody who's around me now believes in what I believe in, you know? Whether they might disagree with it or they might not choose it themselves, but they believe it. They believe in me to believe in that. So regardless of how hard it might get, they'll be there and they'll support that and they'll lift me up and they'll lift you up. You know, um, at least that's how I identify that feedback.
I know what I said sounded pretty rough.
No, it's real, cuz it's real. It's real. Like people are gonna distract you or they're gonna pour into you, you know? And so they're gonna show up as your best homies. They're gonna show up as that, you know, as that girl you think is the one.
So I do want to ask you about something, right? With I've mentioned this a lot with me being 25. You mentioned when you were 25, 26, that was a pivotal moment for you in your life. What was it about that time?
Man, I just remember being so arrogant before that, where it's like, it was easy for me to fall in that disguise and just like be arrogant in that. Um, so to have that kind of like breakthrough, so to speak, you kind of recognize like you ain't really ish. Um, so having that kind of like realization and then actually growing in that clarity, it did something to me, man.
Was it the getting fired?
It was past that. It was cuz I had gotten into cooking and then I was dropping the ball at that restaurant and I was with my mentor and I was working under Bash from the Roost and he's still working there. Shout out Bash. And I was just dropping the ball, bro. I was dropping the ball. I was a new assistant manager. I went from prep cook to assistant manager. I was 24, 25. And it was really hard for me to get the crew to follow me, bro. It was really hard. Like I was going, not only was I like doing everything or trying to do everything myself, I didn't know how to lead. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to get people to trust me or be confident for people to trust me to lead them through the day. Um, they did what they wanted, things like that. So I ended up getting transferred. I ended up getting transferred with David, who is now my business partner.
Chef David. Shout
Shout,
out Chef
shout, shout
David.
out Chef David. When we got transferred, um, I went through that personal development course, and it was like 2 weeks, and I had that realization. And when I got back, it was on. It was on, and I completely embodied that leader role. And I had just gotten to the new restaurant. I had just gotten to the new restaurant, and the manager I was working under, he ended up wanting to go to this other restaurant that we had opened in the same company. And my mentor, he was like, "You think you can handle this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I don't see why not." So he gave me the restaurant, and I was a young boss. I was 25 years old, doing my own thing, like running a restaurant in downtown. And I took it on, bro. I took it on, and I was like really trying to build the business, and we developed business, and it was way more than what was the year before. And I was a young kid, in downtown, going to these office buildings, talking to VPs, presidents, trying to build in-house accounts and stuff like that, like having conversations that they shouldn't have been having with a 25-year old. And they were just like, "Bro, like you cool. Like slide through." And I'd go out, freaking just do work, bro. And the kind of culture that I ran at the restaurant, everybody was like very efficient and very on point with what they were doing in terms of the operation. So I embodied that, bro. I embodied that mindset, that leadership role. I started taking more responsibility, being more responsible. That turning point of just like I'm gonna say no to the BS and say yes to the productivity, so to speak.
So 25 is when things like got good.
Man, good is subjective, maybe I would say. But it was definitely different, bro. Like it was less of like it happening by accident and more so me controlling outcomes.
Why wouldn't you say good?
I was still taking L's because I ain't gonna hold you. You know, when you make that decision to change, there's learning curves in that change. Just like in any growing period, like you're gonna fall a couple times. And I was falling. I still fall. I'm 31 years old. I still fall. I'm not, but I've fallen and gotten up so many times at this point that you might not even notice that I'm falling, you know? But because I'm so like adequate in it, I just get up, shrug it off, dust it off, and let's go. Keep it pushing.
In the previous podcast, you said that you were still healing from some things at the time. What did you need to heal from?
Mm. I'm sure there's some childhood trauma there. Now, as a man, like, there's things that I want that are not really like material. I want to be a dad, I want to be a husband,
Mhm.
kind of stuff like that. And it's like, I want to make sure that I'm not bringing nothing to my table that will affect somebody else's in the future.
What are you waiting for, bro? Isn't your mantra just do it?
Yeah, no, hey, yo, I'm doing it. I'm here. Hood, what you call it? Hood therapy. It was so funny, man, because I had a lot of homies like, yo, what are you gonna talk about? I was like, I don't know, man, but I see his stuff and I know he dives deep.
I appreciate you even opening up the way that you did, right? Because
Yeah,
a
no,
lot of this stuff, it's not easy stuff to talk about.
no,
And there's different perspectives for everybody. And that's why I love to do what I do, honestly,
yeah,
because I get people to come in here, sit down in my world for a little bit and really talk about the nitty-gritty, right?
yeah,
When we're out and about, like nobody's having these conversations.
no.
I'm not trying to talk to you about your childhood trauma while I eat a
Yeah, right. Like you're just at the club, like, yo, what's up? So how about that trauma?
Somebody's got to do it. Why not me?
Yeah, no, hey, bro. Listen, you got some good stuff going on here, bro. Honestly, I appreciate the conversation, man, because I'm definitely gonna how can I say reflect later and like, dang, I really said that.
But yeah, I mean, even with people backing you, you're the only person that can save you. Superman's not coming. What was the moment you realized you're the only person that can save you?
That Gokito moment really, really, really affected me. Just like, yo, you create it, it'll come, you know, and that stemmed way before there was ever a Smash Jibarito business.
What really created this lack of doubt within yourself so often?
I didn't have people pouring into me growing up. Like I didn't have people telling me like or showing me. Everybody told me their opinion, right? Like everybody told me like, do this, do that, get yourself in a but nobody actually like said like, yo, bro, look at this or check this out. This is how you do this or this is how you do that. If I had somebody probably like, because even now, like, even now, um, like I mentor, you know, and I mentor and I actually like, all right, let's try doing this. Let's try doing this. Like, I won't say any names, but a lot of my circle, like they'll have trouble like selling. And I'll be like, okay, well, let's write this. I'll create a script and I'll like write it down and then I'll be like, okay, we'll send that to people. Like, try to make this happen. And if you do these things, like you'll get a certain level of production. You know, I think growing up, like when we look at someone who we want to feel like we want to give advice to, right? We're very like do 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 do. It's never like let me show you this or let me show you how you do that. You know, I feel like the people who have like those upbringings had that kind of example and support behind what they were accomplishing, where I didn't have that person. My mom was always working, you know, no discredit to her. She was tired. She was a single mom. She had her own life that she was figuring out. She was figuring out on top of adding two kids to that. It's tough, bro. It's tough, man. And I give her props, for even me growing up the way I grew up and being alive, because Lord knows I did some crazy shit. freaking behind closed doors,
Yeah.
where she doesn't even know about.
And she don't want to know
And
about
she don't
it.
want to know about. But, she did her best with us. She did her best with us. And I think, you know, I would say she was successful. If I'm
She got a business owner.
yeah, yeah, she do. She gonna get retired too. I got you, mama. But I think that's something that for me, if I were to look at it from the outside, that's something that I would probably say. Um, I never had that kind of like mentorship early. I had it 25, 26 when I started to get mentorship and find mentors, and me wanting to have and find mentors. That thought process came at that age.
See, that's why mentorship is so important to you because it's something you didn't have.
Absolutely.
What was it the kitchen provided you that no place else could?
Man, it was like a fight. I really appreciate like the adrenaline in work. That's something that I fell in love with in the kitchen. Cause I my first job, I was like a receptionist at a church, like just freaking taking calls and scheduling people for baptism, you know? So when I got into,
Damn, I didn't know there was a job for that.
yeah, yeah, there is. Yeah. Shout out St. Viter. It was slow pace. It was chill. So when I got into the industry and I was washing dishes and you got like 200 plates you got to wash in like an hour because you're going to get hit again with more, you have to like move your butt. You have to move, man. And I really appreciated that because it almost felt like a fight, that adrenaline, that like just like rush, you know, when I got into busting tables and actually like earning through my hustle because of my hustle, like dude, that gave me a different perspective. Like if I work hard, I get money, you know? So that's what I appreciated about food and hospitality. When that rush comes through, bro, Sueños, you got 1,000 people in line, 100 tickets on the table. It's on, bro.
So when is it you feel like you'll be enough?
I think I'm enough now. I think to people, I'm enough. To myself, I think one thing about me, man, is that I don't really compare myself to people. So for me, it's like me versus me always. So it's like really difficult for me to say that I'll always be enough because I always set a different level to reach for. And if right now I'm looking at my next 5 years. Like in 5 years, I know I'm gonna look at my next 5 years. You know? So it's a chase that I don't think I'll ever get to. But through that chase, I think I will accomplish for myself and for those around me.
It's hard to be satisfied with the things that you have accomplished. For a long time I was that way. And I wish I was a little bit more that way still because I feel like I've allowed myself to become complacent and be satisfied with what I've done. But in the grand scheme of things, I haven't really done anything. And I don't really know when that like settled in, where it was like, oh, like we're good, like we're doing this, and we got these numbers, and it's like we're gonna do something, right? Because back in the day when I did get a million, I was like, all right, cool, a million. When's the next one? When's the next one? And I think I forced myself to learn to appreciate it more when I lost it the first time. When I had gotten every single thing that I strive for and I didn't appreciate it at the time, I felt like God took that away. He was like, man, you're going to learn this lesson. You're going to learn to appreciate this shit because I gave it to you and you're ungrateful is going away. And I didn't have it for like a year after that. And then we got another mill and still I was kind of in the same mindset because I was still young and I felt like I got to do this. Like it's got to be bigger. And then eventually I was like, okay, like always show gratitude for what you've accomplished, what you've done, but always look towards the next one because there's bigger and better things that are going to happen. but take a moment to appreciate what you've really done.
I love what you said with that, right? Because like a lot of the times, bro, like we're so in the water, bro. It's really difficult to see kind of like the swim that you've already like swam, so to speak. The swim you swam. I don't know if that's my grammar police out there is gonna like get a little twitch with that one, but you know when you're in the water like that, bro, like you don't really get to see like what people are seeing from like the dock. You know what I'm saying? So for you, it's all still water, right? Like you're just floating or you're swimming. You know, the current never changing. You feel like you're in the middle of the ocean, just stagnant. But you don't see like the trail, you know, that you've came from. You don't see that you went from like a puddle to an ocean. You know, you don't see the currents. You don't see the freaking sharks coming at you. You know, you don't see those things. You just see what the day to day is. That's you in the water, and whatever little situation is gonna come about. You're either gonna sink or swim.
And you just got to start. You literally just have to take that leap because nobody else is going to start it except you, right? And that's what I was telling you earlier. Like I started this and had no expectation. My only goal and dream was I'm going to become rich and famous off this. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. But it was never supposed to make it as far as it did. Man, was on a couch. I had a light bulb as my light. We had shitty mics. And for some reason, I'm like, this is hard. Let's keep going. I never rewatched my shit. I never listened to how bad I was. I was literally just on the spot. Let's keep it going, right?
Podcast Shia LaBeouf.
Nah, because I probably would have been discouraged if I had listened back. Even now, like I listen back to the ones I liked. The ones that I know were good, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go listen to that because sometimes I just need that. Like, man, I be hearing some gems in my shit. I'm like, oh shit, I said that. Like, there was one where I said, it was about relationships, and I was talking about, sometimes it's easier to stay with the person that gave you all the baggage than to just go find someone new to carry the baggage. And my homie goes, it's sometimes it's easier to stay with the devil that you know than the devil that you don't know, than the angel that you don't know. Oh gosh, me and that man were hurt. I
Went
don't
to go
know.
break up with your girls right then and there. Like, we done.
I think I had just broke up with my girl. I think that's why I was so hurt.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, man, shout out to the exes, bro.
Shout out to exes. Hey, shout out the girl that gave me my first 2 M's. I'm not gonna lie.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but man, I appreciate you coming through. You got anything else you want to say real quick? Anything you want to plug?
If you haven't had a Smash Jibarito, go get yourself a Smash Jibarito. We're in Paseo Boricua, Maplewood, and Division.
Make sure you guys go ahead, check out Smash Jibarito. Make sure you, man, get that shit. Get that shit. Make sure you go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.